podcast called Jellison Podcast.
He probably doesn't remember this at all.
Yeah, we work together. It's easy.
This is kind of real. Like, holy shit.
And so it's really cool to get to be a part of that.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when
you now tune into the biggest ever.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with episode 152 of the Jellison Podcast. Today, very special guest, former Purdue and IUPUI guard, Center Grove assistant coach now, John Hart. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you coming on. I feel like this is the same with all the Purdue guys I have on, but I've been a fan of you for quite some time now. Over like you came in when I was like 8 years old, so yeah. I grew up watching you and Etwan and Lou Jack and all those guys. So it's a pleasure to have you on.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
So like I mentioned, you're an assistant coach for Center Grove, just fresh off of state championship here in Indy. So I mean, what was that like to be able to come back to your old high school and contribute to that success? Yeah,
it's over at Beech Grove. Center Grove's a little further south.
My fault.
Yeah, I know you're good. But no, I mean it's definitely been a pretty exciting ride. My first year even getting into coaching was the junior class that's there. I had one of the seniors, or one of two seniors on our team. So I was able to coach him before I was even on the staff at Beech Grove. So after that, we had won a big tournament. And Coach Renfro, who's the head coach over at Beech Grove, he had reached out to me and was like, asked me about being on the staff, And at first I was just kind of up in the air because it was that AAU summer was like my first time coaching, and I was just trying to get a feel for it. But my job was flexible enough where, I kind of create my own schedule. So I was like, what the heck, I'll come back, give the knowledge and the game to these younger guys and just help them out. But it's my third year on the staff, but my first year as the JV head coach. But like I said, it's been a pretty exciting ride, man. It gives the kids something to talk about because I was one of the ones that won one of the first sectionals at Beech Grove. And that team has won 4 in a row. So, it's been pretty exciting. They kind of pick at me like, oh, our team was better than yours when you were here. So they kind of do that. But like I said, it's been pretty exciting, man. It's been good for the city of Beech Grove. They actually just gave us a proclamation where we have a Beech Grove Hornets basketball day. And we actually have a parade coming up this Friday on Main Street in Beech Grove too. So I mean, like I said, it's been exciting, not only just for our team and the coaches, but just for the whole entire city.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I mean, you're still playing as of like last summer. You can still give it to a lot of those kids, I bet.
Oh yeah. So, and that's the thing too. I gotta keep them humble. So like around like the winter time, around like Christmas when we have like a big gap and we don't have games, I'll bring in some of my guys that still playing overseas or playing professionally. In the G League and things like that. So we'll come in, give them a pretty good beat down, just to try to keep them in their place. But I can still get out there, and I'm still active.
Mm-hmm. And then another Boilermaker, obviously, Katie Gerald's is from Beech Grove, and she got honored this year. It feels like Beech Grove's kind of on the come up these last few seasons.
Right. Yeah. It's like I said, it's been a lot of great things going on with the city, man, and I feel like winning that state championship was just kind of like the cherry on top. I mean, we're not done yet. We have a big group that are all juniors that are coming back next year, so that'll be exciting for us. But yeah, Katie, she's been a really big influence on me because when I came there, I think I was in 8th grade when they won state, and then she was going to Purdue straight from Beech Grove, so that had a lot of influence when Coach Painter then recruited me, and so. It's been pretty good. I still stay in contact with her a little bit because I know she's over at Purdue now coaching the women. So it's been pretty good for the city.
What does it mean to you to be able to come back to your high school and have that impact and actually like contribute to that success, not just like be in the stands and like feeling a part of the community? You're actually in there coaching and helping these kids.
It's pretty satisfying, especially because the goal is always to win state. But to be able to come in and have the impact and still Coach tells me to the players that I'm still relevant because I'm fairly younger. So he's like, they get tired of hearing his voice. So I mean, to be able to come in and have an impact and know that they're listening and picking these things up that we're teaching them, it's pretty rewarding and I'm enjoying it. So I mean, I never really thought I was going to get into coaching and like be doing it for quite a while, but like now I'm starting to, I'm learning more, especially being the JV coach and just, picking the brain of Coach Renfro and all, and the other guys that we have on our staff that have played collegiate. We have a coach, Joe Rim, that actually coached Eric Hunter when he won state high school. So it's just a lot. It's an experience within itself, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. Like, I know you kind of talked about you were helping out with AAU, and then things just kind of fell into place. I mean, were you seriously considering coaching like at all before that point?
So I had been asked, the late coach, Coach English, that was at Beech Grove. He had asked me a while ago, but that was when I was still playing. I think I had just left to go play in Canada. And I told him, I was like, it was something I thought about, but I was just saying, like, I'm still in the midst of still trying to play professionally and do things like that. So I just it was like kind of on the back burner, but it wasn't really something I'm just like, man, I really want to get into coaching. I want to, but I knew I would be able to like help if I ever did and make an impact. But yeah, it wasn't really anything that I wanted to get into. And I'm not even sure why. I've had a lot of people ask me that too, like even coming out, it was like, hey, you don't get into coaching or like, you're going to take this job. Like certain jobs have opened up. And I'm just like, no, I feel in a place where I'm learning a lot. And I just want to continue to do that until I feel I'm in a position where I would like want to, take a head job or something like of that nature. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it's been a learning curve for me and I'm just enjoying the ride.
I mean, who all have you kind of learned from? I would imagine Paint and the guys on the staff taught you a lot and you kind of pick things up here and there. But is there anyone else that you kind of pick things up from and learn from in the coaching world?
Coaching, yeah. I mean, I would say our entire Purdue staff while I was there. And, we have guys on that have played or college and professionally too on our staff. Chuck Gilbert, he's our freshman coach over there, but he's an older guy, played at Indy, and he's a pretty high player. He's a big Renfro, he played under Jay Wright at Hofstra. So I mean, we have there's a lot on our staff, and just like other coaches, my guy Adrian Moss, he's the head coach over at Franklin, Indiana, where he actually played at, and me and him played in Canada together. And he had an AAU program, and that was the first team that I took on. So I've learned a lot from him, just like sitting on the bench with him, and seeing how he runs his practices and his AAU programs and things like that. So I mean, there's tons of guys, especially coaching, that I pick a few things here and there and see what I can take and utilize. But yeah, I would say Coach Painter definitely had probably the biggest impact, just learning the 4 years I was there under his program.
It is cool to look around the state and see, I mean, someone like yourself going back to their old high school or just staying in Indy and coaching. Like I know Wes Stowers and Devonta Smith Rivera are coaching at NC right now. So like, I mean, I just find that super cool personally.
Yeah, I mean, and it is just to be able to go back, and have an impact, not just only on the kids, but at a school where you went and you were recognized and you went to the collegiate level and did higher things. Wes Stowers and Devontae, both of those are both of my guys. I went over and checked them out too. They also have Damon Ellison. He's one of my really good friends that's there. I've been knowing him for a long time. Me, him, and Tyrone used to run together a whole lot. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it is a beautiful thing to be able to pick the brain of other coaches and implement and use what you can for your own team.
And getting back into the indie hoop scene after some time away, I mean, how much has it changed from when you were coming up in high school to now?
It's totally different now because you have like all the trainers and you have like the social media where everything's being recorded, and you're getting more exposure to coaches, to teams, and different things like that. So we didn't necessarily have that much social media as big as it is now, but yeah, it's totally different because when I first came home, and was playing at IUPUI when I finished up, went to Canada, came back. We had a guy, Andre Owens. He always held like open gyms where like all the professionals and collegiate players would come back, and we would have runs early morning. You know, he sends these long texts and like, hey, don't bring your name, bring your game type thing. You know, just get it start early. He's talking crazy in the morning just to get the blood flowing. But yeah, we have several guys, man, that still come back, and we still have those open gyms to this day where like all the professionals come back, and you know, guys that are coming home from school and they come and we all compete. Because there's been a lot of like money tournaments and things like that. So people got to stay polished. I like to call it, because I'm like, you know, my guys come home from overseas. I'm not gonna be the one you busting up on. I'm gonna be the one, you know, giving out those buckets. So it's definitely different. Like I said before, I left and went to Purdue. We didn't really necessarily have all that. So I mean, and it's good for those guys too, especially the exposure and how AAU has become like 10 times bigger. And the tournaments and all the notoriety and things. So I mean, it's definitely good for the city and for the kids.
Yeah, and I mean, there's trainers everywhere. I've had a lot of them on the podcast, and but Taylor Ware, he has his competitive greatness, I believe it's called. Derek Grant, he does dizzy runs, and I mean, you look at like the guys they're playing in those, it's absolutely insane.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And it's a good thing too, because of, you know, you have those NBA guys that are coming back and they're being more involved in the city, and being able to give people a platform to play ball on, and getting that exposure. So it's definitely, you know, there's a lot of trainers, a lot of good things that are coming from that too. Like I said, it's mainly just giving those kids the exposure they need to get to the next level.
And do you think the competition has gotten better? Maybe it's a more even playing field, or just like the level of the skill of these guys is just getting that much higher year by year by year?
Yeah, I definitely think it's getting better year by year, just because, I mean, like I said, you see these kids are a whole lot more athletic. You know, there's different moves and different things that are being implemented with trainers and all that. And that wasn't the case, you know, back a couple of years ago. Well, about 5-10 years ago, that wasn't the case. So like now, yeah, I think it's definitely a different level of competition, which is really good, because like I said, it keeps players polished. You know, you're not thinking I'm gonna come to this open gym, I'm just gonna, you know, kill everybody. It's everybody can get a bucket, everybody can play D, you know what I mean? Everybody's gonna go rebound. So it's gonna be real competitive. So I think that's been the biggest piece.
And then being from Indiana, you know better than anybody. I mean, basketball is just different here. People from Indiana understand that. People that don't really get it. But I mean, take me back to some of those games or tournaments from you in AAU or high school. I mean, how do you look back on those?
Yeah, so even what the crazy part is, I didn't really get to play a whole lot of AAU. I think I did like 2 years, but I did get on Speed Cindy Heat my senior year, going into my senior year. You know, we went out to Vegas, and those were like some games and like players that I was just like, wow, this is what's really been going on. Like I saw like the Brandon Jennings and, you know, players like that, where they're just competing at a super high level, and it's super competitive. And, you know, and you see why certain guys are getting the scholarships and the notoriety that they're getting. So the big time tournament was definitely one that I remember for sure, like vividly. I've also played in like some tournaments. Like we went to Brooklyn, where we had, I think it was like 7 or 8 cities, like Chicago, DC, Philly. And we played in, it's called a Red Bull tournament. It was like bragging rights for your state. We ended up winning that. The Indy team won that. Carlos Knox, he's on the Fever's staff. He was the coach for that and took some of us Indy guys out and did that. Yeah, I mean, it's like a bunch of basketball, man, that I've played in my years that have, you know, sticks out.
What about when you were playing in high school at Beech Grove?
I mean, obviously it would be winning that sectional. Coming in freshman year, I played freshman. Obviously, you always think you're better than you know other players, and you should be playing varsity. That wasn't the case for me. I came in and played freshman. So that it just motivated me to, as a sophomore was a pretty big milestone for me that I remember. Beating Roncalli, my rival high school that's like right down the road. That was a plus. Getting to play in like the junior all-star games and all the Indiana all-star games, those are always, a monumental thing to do, especially in Indiana when you have so much talent, and to be selected on those teams. And even something like the men's leagues that we have here and like the city league, those type of tournaments, like and they put stipulations on some of them too, where you can have 2 to 3 Division I or professional players. So you kind of have to like mold your team and, put the right team together. So, all those are just, they're becoming staples in the city. And it's always an honor to be able to, play in those or be recognized or, have people know that you played in those things. And because that's forever, they can never, no one can ever take that away from you.
And I was going through, excuse me, like a couple years before you, looking at like the recruiting stuff and looking to see who's in your class. 2006 and 2007, we could put them up against any classes that have ever come through Indiana. It was Craig Oden, Mike Conley, Luke Herringody, Eric Gordon, Etwan Jawan, Robbie, Jeff Teague, and Matt Howard.
Yeah.
In like a 2-year span, they're all going to college ball. That just shows, and that's in 2 years. That just shows you the level of talent that comes out of Indy or Indiana as a whole every year.
Yeah, man. And that was one of the biggest things for me too, is because like I said, I didn't get to know those guys until later on, but you always saw their names and like the score sheets and different things like that. But yeah, and just going to some of those games in Indiana in the city and like being able to watch those gyms be filled up and, there's standing room only, like that played a really big role as far as like, hey, you need to, tweak your game and make sure you're on top of everything. So because you see the level of competition that you could be playing at, any given time during the state tournament and things like that. So that's definitely like a big piece. Like those years, even the Gordon Haywards and, Julian Mobungas and those guys that are still playing professionally and things like that. Like we have a lot of those guys that still come back. And like I said, we compete every summer and we do all that. So it's Indiana is pretty big, man. And I love the basketball family that we have.
Do you remember anyone like when you were in like elementary school or middle school going to a game on Friday night, like specifically to watch?
Not a whole lot. And it's kind of crazy. Like I played football a lot when I was younger. So that was kind of like where I think my focus was at the time. But then once I started getting closer to middle school, is when, basketball became like kind of more of my passion. And of course my mom was like saying I was going to get hurt in football and all that. So she kind of took me out of that. I still played like 2 years in high school and then I stopped going into my junior year. But yeah, there's some older guys that I didn't really know of back then, but like now that I do know, and just have more of the history. But yeah, like I said, I was kind of like a football kid coming up, so it wasn't a whole lot that I do remember as far as like going to games and stuff like that.
Maybe it was just because social media was like just starting when I was in middle school, like just really picking up steam. But I remember I watched Gary Harris play a few times.
Yeah.
When he hit that buzzer beater against North Central. I'm from Noblesville, so I went there that night. And then I went when Noblesville played HSC, and I saw it. I should have brought it down, but it's up there. I got his autograph on like a IHSAA ticket.
Right.
I was like 11. So I was always, I'm not very good at basketball, but I've always been a fan of it,
Just a fan of it, yeah. I was actually at that game too. Tyrone and I had came down from Purdue because Ronnie was playing.
Yep.
And we were at that game when Gary hit that half court shot. Yeah, Gary's one of the guys too. Like I said, I've played ball with him, hung out. We've done that type of thing this past couple summers or whatever. But yeah, that was a crazy game for sure. But yeah, I do think social media plays a big role in all of that, because like I said, when I was in like middle school, we didn't really have a whole lot of that. I think was it MySpace or something that was kind of like what we had in high school, yeah. And then Twitter came Facebook came, I think, towards the end of like my high school career. So some of that stuff was just starting to brew up and like get big. But like I said, now the social media platforms and what these kids have for that exposure is a really great thing, I think.
And That's kind of funny you bring up Tyrone and Ronnie, because it was Ronnie was a soft. It was right before, like a week before he transferred. They came back to watch North Central play at the Noblesville sectional. So I met both of them. I saw Tyrone in the like concession stand line, and I like fangirled out because I was like, so I got a picture with him, and so I showed him it. I'll have to send it to you, but I got a picture of both of them. So like, I've always been huge fans of them, and then obviously when Ronnie transferred, I was pissed.
He's Tyrone's out in Cali, but I think he's actually moving back here. He's been looking for houses and stuff. So I'll get my friend back. He's not all the way on the West Coast anymore, where he's just making trips here and there, and then I'm going out there. But yeah, I just talked to him not too long ago, a couple of days ago. But yeah, those are my guys, though, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen on social media and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, you and Tyrone seem really close.
Yeah. We actually went. What was that? I think last July. We all went to Cabo. There's about 20 of us. It was like for his birthday and like 2 other birthdays, and his real estate thing they just got going. So, but yeah, that's my dude, man. I talk to him just about every day.
I mean, what do you take away from your 4 years at Purdue? Obviously, you redshirted and then played 3 years. I mean, what do you take away from that time?
I mean, it's a lot that I have taken away and that I've learned as I matured. As far as like work ethic, I think one of the main things that Coach Painter, and I think a lot of players will vouch for it too, is like he teaches you how to become a man with like having a set schedule, being on time for things, being early, and just kind of, getting your life in order and not just based on basketball. So I think even though, he was our coach, it kind of taught me more about life and from that aspect, and just being able to compete, and staying on edge, never being too comfortable. Just because playing in the Big Ten for a Hall of Famer coach like him and the recruits that are coming in, you have to stay on your toes. You have to, keep your game polished. You have to work hard in order to get what you want or what you deserve. So those are some of the main things that I took away from playing at Purdue.
And I mean, what was it like to come in and that roster was absolutely loaded? I mean, not only the baby boilers, but you got, Lou Jack and Ryan came in with you. Then you had like Keaton Grant and Chris Kramer, like studs all across the roster. What was it like to come in that and try to get acclimated?
Coming in that summer was like it was kind of shocking, like eye-opening. Because I remember like me and Lou were coming in the practice, or it was open gym, and they kind of have their ways of like how they run open gyms and things like that. So we come in and like they're obviously being aggressive. You're getting fouled. You're not getting the foul because the defense calls fouls for you. So that's kind of what we've ran by, and that's what we know. So coming into that, and we just had like guys like Keaton Grant and like Chris Kramer, just jaw japping and talk like, you ain't getting that in practice, you ain't getting that in the 10, so don't even play soft. So it made us toughen up and hit the weight room and get big, and made us compete. So that's like the main things that I do love about the culture and the brotherhood that we had. Like even though all the stuff talking and everything was going on in practice, but as soon as we leave and go to the locker room, everything's good. So everything's always left on the court. But yeah, just that competitive nature, man, and just getting prepared to know, because that's basically what they were doing. We were the younger guys coming in, us three, me, Ryan, and Lou, and they were the older guys, and they've been there. They had their beaks wet. So they're just getting us polished for when we do get to the Big Ten in conference and all that stuff that we're ready to play. So I do appreciate those guys for that.
And did you realize or did you think about the expectations that some of those teams had, obviously with the baby boilers, All-Americans, all that type of stuff? You guys are expected to compete for Big Ten championships and maybe go on to a Final Four. Did you guys ever feel that expectations and that pressure?
Yes, I would definitely say that. And I think when it actually like hit me and I realized is when we played Duke my redshirt year in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and just the way Duke played, and like, because we obviously we thought we were good, and we have guys, we have the names, but just seeing that different level, of winning mentality and things like that. So I think after that, was every huddle, it's in championships, and we know the run that we can go on. Unfortunately, obviously, we had those injuries and things like that. But yeah, it was an expectation for us to always win the Big Ten, whether that was regular conference or the Big Ten tournament, which we've done, and just make that run and do something special in the tournament. So that was always our goal. That was always the expectation. We did go every year that I was there. So that was, you know what I mean? It was something that was expected. It wasn't just expected to get there. It was expected to win and go far. And like I said, always win those Big Ten tournaments in the regular season.
And what did those guys like? They talk about Keaton and Chris Kramer. I mean, what did you get from them? Like when you came in, what all did you learn from them, and how did you try to carry that on to try to coach up the younger guys when you became a junior? And
just a work ethic. Like I said, because it's always competitive in practice, in the games. You know, when we're scrimmaging in the summer, you know, weightlifting and doing all that stuff. It's just the competitive nature of having that and staying on edge. Because I think if we would have ever got comfortable, we wouldn't have, you know, went to a Sweet 16 or won the Big Ten or Big Ten tournament. So those guys they worked extremely hard. So that was just like something that we all picked up on, and it was just like a team thing. We know such and such is in the weight room already. Like, hey, let's, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get in there. I gotta go a couple times this week or whatever. But just that work ethic and being able to back it up, you know, because talk is cheap. And I mean, a lot of those guys, like I said, when we first came in, it was like, hey, this is our team. You know, you got to earn your stripes. So, and that's just something that kind of carried down for each class that did come in.
I mean, is it kind of bittersweet looking back on it, just because, I mean, we all know as like Purdue fans, or I mean, you guys as Purdue players, that what was it, 2009, 2010? I mean, that team was primed for a Final Four run. Obviously,
Sure.
Robbie gets hurt and all that type of stuff. It's kind of bittersweet to look back and be like, damn, we should have been to a Final Four.
Oh yeah, man, no question. And I think about it pretty much every year when the NCAA tournament comes around, just because the team that we had was so special. And I feel like we did have all the pieces to make a deep run and go to a Final Four and possibly win. But yeah, it definitely is. And it was a little different for me too, because me and Robbie were roommates too for 2 years. So, you know, it was more, it was kind of more indebted, just like, you know, my guys down, like we all knew the type of season that we wanted to have and what our goals were. So it definitely is bittersweet. Like I said, every tournament, any NCAA tournament come around, that's always something that's thought about and talked about amongst like my friends and family and things like that.
And then for you personally, obviously when you got those type of guys, I mean, superstars in college basketball, All-Americans, your role was a little inconsistent. I mean, was it hard mentally to kind of accept that and do what's best for the team, as opposed to being selfish and wanting more?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say it was hard. It was a learning curve. Because, you know, everybody coming in, something you look at, everybody coming in was the best player on their high school team, basically. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say it was hard, but I mean, there were days where it's just like, you know, dang, I could, you know, just let me have a couple more minutes, or if I can be in at this time. But it was just something that you go back on, and like I said, it just made me work harder and get back in the gym. You know, even after workouts and different things like that, I was going to the gym, just getting shots up or working on ball handling. But no, yeah, it just goes back to, it just keeps us on edge, man. It just lets you know, hey, maybe you're not as good as you think you are, or, you know, maybe you just need to work harder. So that's really what I learned from it and got from it. And like I said, it just made me want to work on my game and get better.
And obviously you ended up transferring to IUPUI after 4 years at Purdue, so got your degree and things like that. Do you think that's why a lot of kids are leaving after their freshman year from places, if things don't go right away?
I was just having a conversation about that too. Yeah, I mean, I think it's different. I mean, I don't think I would have left if I didn't graduate. So once I graduated, and then I learned about, you know, having that option to go play anywhere. Then I was just like, I would pursue it and kind of see what it's about. But I don't know if I necessarily like agree with like all like how the transfer portal is right now. Like it's insane. And I feel like it's kind of teaching kids to just, if things aren't going right, just go ahead and leave immediately without trying to make it work. I mean, obviously certain players, their situations will be different. But the fact that it's just like, I mean, I've seen guys averaging like 17, 18 points, and then they're just leaving, their sophomore year and things like that. So, I mean, obviously we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with those teams or those players. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with like how that the NCAA is like doing that right now. To me, it just seems like kind of haywire. There's no control over it, but I mean, obviously, kids are want to be in the best situation to pursue their dreams and do that. So I would never knock anybody for that, but I just think there could be probably a better way for that to be held.
Yeah, that's kind of the general consensus when I asked you guys about that, especially the the guys that have been through college basketball on the other side have had a chance to mature. But yeah, I can't blame a kid for wanting to leave and go to a better situation. Like even for Purdue, the transfers that they've had recently, like Jaquil Taylor, this year Isaiah Thompson and Eric Hunter Jr., Aaron Wheeler. Like I can't fault those guys for going out and looking for better opportunities.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, obviously situations are different for certain players, but I think some of them too that are in that transfer portal are like, oh, just let me see where I can go, or oh, like you know what I mean. Like I just feel like a lot of it isn't probably genuine, but I mean, like I said, I never knock anybody trying to pursue a better position for themselves. So.
And it's obviously a double-edged sword because like Matt Harms left, became the defensive player of the year in the WCC. No Joel Eastern left, and I mean there's a bunch of things that haven't been put out about that probably. Like I don't know the whole situation, but I mean that backfired for him. So it's like a give and take. You have to be,
I would agree. Yeah, it's like I said, it works out for some, it doesn't work out for others, but it's just. Yeah, I don't know, but the way that the transfer portal is right now, I just like, because it's like every day, it's like at least 10 to 20 like names are just like in the transfer portal. I'm just like, I guess it is what it is. I mean, take advantage of whatever you can take advantage of for sure. So a lot of those players probably are finding better positions to play. So,
how different do you think your college career would have been if you had like transfer portal, NIL, all this different stuff that we have now? Because it's like, I don't know if you saw the whole Nigel Pack situation, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it looks like Miami's just paying him.
Right.
Which I don't
think. That's, it plays I think that plays a huge role in like what's going on now too, is that NIL. And I truly wish we had that when I was still playing, because I mean, and I think that changes the dynamic of things too, with players not necessarily trying to leave early or do things, because I know, I mean, we're college students. We're not making any money, but you see, your jerseys in the store, and you're not making anything off of it. You know what I mean? So there's different dynamic to it for sure. But I definitely wish we had that back when I was still playing.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of Purdue fans were going at Nigel Pack because he was like Purdue, Ohio State, Miami. Ended up choosing Miami. I don't know if it was because of the money solely, but I mean, you're getting $800,000.
Right.
To go to school. I mean, I would take that too.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know. Coaches are going to have to try to push athletic departments, and athletic departments are going to have to try to get involved in. I mean, they're going to have to shell out money at the end of the day until the NCAA adjusts rules, or if they just let it fly and it's a free for all, like the NBA free agency or something like that.
Yeah, and which I mean, I think it was. I want to say this might have been about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think one of the coaches, I can't think of who it was. I read something, it was some article about it where a coach was saying something about like how the transfer portal is and the NILs and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think I guess it's kind of like trial and error as of right now because of like, COVID, the extra year and then all this stuff. So I guess it's a learning curve for the NCAA and like the kids. So I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to put a pinpoint on like what actually needs to happen or to control it. But I mean, it's changing the lives for some of these kids. So I mean, that's always a plus based on like the backgrounds and things like that. So like I said, I'll never knock anyone for trying to better themselves for a better position. So.
Yeah, you can't blame nobody for trying to get paid, especially because they deserve. Like, I was talking to Carlos Williams. He was a running back for Florida State, played with the Bills. This was a while ago. I mean, he was like, think about what like Johnny Football or Jameis Winston or Reggie
Right.
Bush, the guys, I mean, in college football especially, all
Yeah.
those dudes would have been millionaires,
For sure.
which
For sure.
they might have been anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah, even just like some of the sanctions and all that stuff, like you're not necessarily dealing with all of that with the the NILs and all that stuff that's in place. So yeah, I mean it's totally different now. So like I said, I wish we had some of these certain things that they have going on now, back when I was playing. So
sir, no doubt. Well, hey, we're about up on time, so I'm gonna let you go. But I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I've been a fan of you for a long time, so it was an honor to get you on.
yeah, man, appreciate you for having me for sure. Anything, I mean, you need anything else like further on, just reach out and let me know. I'll be more than welcome.
Yes, sir. We'll have to do it again sometime.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too.